So that proposed swap is now raising fears that the Obama administration has opened Pandora's box when it traded 5 Taliban fighters for Army Sergeant Bo Bergdahl last year. You remember that. Lots to talk about here with KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst and former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense under President Reagan. KT, when this first happened, the Al-Mari transfer, when he was released, you said on this show there is more to this story than we're hearing right now.
Yeah, and the problem with all this is, and I've seen it happen, I've seen a president have to struggle with how do you get your American citizens back. They have a devil's choice to make. They try to get them back, and what do? They either swap for terrorists who are going to go back into the fight, or they pay a ransom to be used by terrorists to continue the fight. It is a dreadful dilemma that every president is put into, but the reality is if you try to save one life this way by paying ransom or trading hostages, you are signing death warrants down the road, because all it does is encourage terrorists to take more hostages, because they know that that's a currency that they can get a lot for in a trade.
Yeah, I thought this comment with regard to the Japanese hostage that's being held by ISIS and what the White House thinks about this situation and what they recommend. The comment made by Dennis McDonough to Chris Wallace over the weekend was very interesting. Let's replay that for everybody.
I'm not going to get in a conversation with the Japanese on your show, but I'm not here to talk about that today, and I don't anticipate it.
But I take you view it as another form of ransom.
Well, that's the way we've treated this.
So he says that if they paid, if they did a prisoner swap for this remaining hostage, that would be a form of ransom. He said that's the way we've treated it, and yet it certainly appears that has become the White House's MO.
Well, look, the real problem was when they swapped the jihadist terrorists at Gitmo for Bo Bergdahl. You don't exchange prisoners during a war. This is a long war. It is not a long war of our making. It is a long war of their making. So there is a very good and real reason why you don't exchange prisoners, pay ransom, or exchange hostages. Why? Because they just go back into the fight. And so, yes, is there a connection between the release of this jihadist prisoner, this al-Qaeda guy, and the family in Qatar? Well, the administration says no. But let me tell you, I worked for a president who was accused of trading hostages for arms, and it almost brought down a presidency. There is a very good reason we don't do this. We know our allies do. It is a mistake every time.
All right, one last question for you, because it's interesting that ISIS is calling for the release of this woman who was involved in the triple hotel bombings under Zarqawi, I believe, back in 2005. And there's a connection, is there not, between ISIS and the roots and what was left over of Zarqawi's al-Qaeda division?
Yeah, I mean, ISIS is just al-Qaeda rebranded. It's tougher, it's meaner, it's got a little bit of new leadership, but it is radical jihadists. And they want to get this woman who had a suicide vest on, remember. She's not an innocent bystander. There's no question about her guilt. She had a suicide vest, it didn't go off. Now they want to trade her. Well, what is she going to do if she goes back to the hands of al-Qaeda, to the hands of ISIS? She's going to go back into the fight. She is also going to be a huge PR victory. And the Jordanians are now the new front line for radical jihad, because they've got an X on their back. ISIS has already said that's where we're going next.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, KT, thank you very much.